Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us again today. This is Moneyline with Nancy, and my name is Nancy Naji. Today, we will be looking at certain developments in the agricultural sector, especially regarding maize cultivation. We do know that the Russia-Ukraine crisis have put pressure on global food prices as well as supply, because the supply isn't there, so the prices higher. If you are in Nigeria, you know that the price of bread, the price of wheat, the price of noodles, the price of spaghetti, the price of, wheat-based products have gone up. So we will be looking at what the Apex Bank says it is doing around maize specifically today on the program. But we will get started with news headlines. That's our business news at this point. Don't forget that you can join us on all our social media platforms. The handles are on the screen, or they'll be scrolling on the screen shortly. The Nigerian Senate has extended the implementation year for the 2021 Appropriation Act from March 31 to May 31 to enable the lawmakers consider the 2022 budget thoroughly, among other reasons. In a statement released on Tuesday by Dr. Israel Tabio, Special Assistant Press to the President of the Senate, the extension was approved following the consideration of a bill to amend the 2021 Appropriation Act. The Senate, before considering the bill, suspended Rule 78, Subsection 1 of the Senate Standing Orders 2022 as amended to enable the upper chamber to introduce and pass the bill. According to figures from the Central Bank of Nigeria and the National Bureau of Statistics, Nigeria's import bill increased from 8.73 trillion naira to 20.84 trillion naira between 2016 and 2021. This means that imports into the country increased by 12.11 trillion naira during the 5-year period. According to CBN statistics, the country's imports have been fast expanding since 1980, while Nigeria's import bill increased from $16.65 billion in 1980 to $67.05 billion in 2014. Nigeria's microfinance banks' total assets climbed to 1.35 trillion naira at the end of September 2021, up from 856.3 billion naira in September 2020. This was revealed in a quarterly report from the Central Bank of Nigeria on microfinance banks' account assets. According to the CBN data on the list of licensed microfinance banks, the number of microfinance banks increased from 876 on June 30, 2021 to 882 on December 31, 2021. Mele Kyari, the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, has asked the National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, the National Association of Road Transport Workers, and other oil and gas stakeholders for help in combating crude oil theft in the Niger Delta region. At the 5th Quadrennial Delegates Conference in Asaba, Delta State, Kyari stated that crude oil theft has had a detrimental impact on the federal government's income and has deprived the country of much-needed funds for economic growth. Speaking on the recent development, the NNPC GMD told participants at the Nupen conference that the impact of pipeline vandalism had reduced the capacity of the country to meet its oil production quota. Moving over to banks, the borrowing from banks from the Central Bank of Nigeria fell 0.45% to 1.35 trillion naira in the first quarter of 2022, compared to 1.36 trillion naira recorded by the Apex Bank regulator in the first quarter of 2021. Banks deposit surplus liquidity with the Apex Bank on a daily basis through the standing deposit facility. According to the CBN, the pattern in the first 3 months was a continuous reduction in bank deposits, driven by continued improvement in the interbank system's liquidity. Banks deposited 572.5 billion naira with the CBN in January, but it fell by 48% to 489.05 billion naira in February. Furthermore, in March, the borrowing fell to 296.8 billion naira. The value of electronic payment channels transactions climbed by 2.08% month-on-month to 29.4 trillion naira in February 2022, up from 28.8 trillion naira in January 2022. Similarly, the amount of e-payment transactions increased by 3.9% month-on-month from 462.4 million in January 2022 to 480.77 million in February 2022. According to recent statistics on electronic payments issued by the Nigerian Interbank Settlement System on Tuesday, the volume of point-of-sale transactions, that's POS transactions, declined by 1.2% month-on-month to 88.9 million in February 2022 from 90 million in January 2022. However, the total amount of POS transactions increased by 0.23% to 575.06 billion naira in January 2022, up from 573.7 billion naira in January 2022. States and local governments have been charged to be deliberate in ensuring that there is geographical database of farmers as way to solve the issue of farming activities in the country. Dr. Elias Ugashimbake, who is the Group Country Director at MECA, gave the charge while speaking on the challenges of food production and processing in Nigeria.
In every state there is a Ministry of Commerce that deals with registration of trade groups, association, unions, and all that. Now, that same department that is responsible for registration of trade groups, state governments and local governments need to be deliberate in ensuring that we have database of farmers by geography. It has to be at that level, so that by the time you are presenting a database of farmers by geography in terms of in local government, even at ward level, once we can break down the data to that level, would have solved one of the major challenges to planning of farming in Nigeria. So the local government should be involved, the state government should be involved, traditional rulers also need to be involved, but government need to be deliberate that the current database that we have is not helpful to farming, to the planning of agricultural activities.
In order to have food sufficiency and enough produce for export, Femi Boyede has called for the need for all Nigerians to return to either as mechanized farming. Femi Boyede, certified international trade professional, while speaking on Russia-Ukraine crisis opportunities for Nigerian exporters, said if Nigerians can become, or if Nigeria can become an exporter of farm produce or products, if only they can, or Nigeria can become an exporter of many farm products if they can go back to their farms.
You don't need government to compel somebody not to sell so that you can feed. If we are not lazy, if oil had not deadened our brains, I can assure you that every family in Nigeria, as at the time I was going to primary and secondary school in this country, every family not only had the potential, they had the farming activity that complemented whatever their core business was. So if they went to the market, it was to go and get one or two other things that they didn't have. That's where we are supposed to be orienting back to.
The Economic Community of West African States Commission is working with the European Union to combat maritime insecurity along the West African coast. Meeting in Abuja, their meeting in Abuja is to develop the framework known as the European Union-funded support to West Africa Integrated Maritime Security Project. The gathering, which drew participants from all the ECOWAS member countries, is expected to review and refine modalities on the distribution of essential maritime security equipment across ECOWAS littoral countries. Speaking on the meeting's agenda, the head of ECOWAS Regional Security Division, Colonel Abdurrahman Dieng, stated that maritime insecurity is one of the most persistent and intractable dangers to the submarine region's communities and economic success. All right, let's quickly take a break, and when we come back from the break, I will be taking you through the markets for today. Do join us again. All right, let's quickly take you through the markets. Money market conditions improved on Tuesday as we saw that rates dipped. The drop in rates was as a result of elevated liquidity in the system, which came in at about 157.23 billion naira. Okay, I'm talking about money market. But for the stock markets, as you can see right here on the screen, the numbers came in green on Tuesday. This is the first green that we're getting in 3 days. Meanwhile, Presco PLC has announced that it will issue 34.5 billion naira Series 1 7-year fixed rate bonds under its 50 billion bond issuance program. Now, if we go over to the fixed income space, Tuesday's activities were relatively mixed, though with a bearish bias. In the bonds market, average yields climbed following sell-offs across the mid to the long end of the curve. And in the Eurobond market, and I must say that we're getting interest in the Eurobond market, it was a bullish Tuesday due to the massive interest in the June 2022 maturity. If you are not getting what I am saying, all you need to do is to get a financial advisor if you want to increase your money, if you want to. I didn't mean pyramid scheme or Ponzi scheme. Don't say, Nancy, increase your money, and somebody will say, bring 50,000, I'll double it to 200,000 in the next 3 days. That's not what we're talking about. Building wealth takes time. Go and ask Warren Buffett and the likes of them. So you need to get a financial advisor to check out your risk. Your risk would also be determined by your age. What kind of risk do you want to take? How much money do you have to invest? So do that. So the Euro bond market is also expected to be bullish today. Now, for Nigeria's currency, the naira, it depreciated against the US dollar to 416 naira 83 kobo on Tuesday. External reserves increased to $39.57 billion on April 4, 2022. That's data from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Now, let's move over to other markets very quickly. I'm done with the Nigerian market, so let's move over to other markets. In Africa, I must say that in Namibia, the government has decided to increase the benefit amount for the disability grant for children under the age of 18 from 250 Namibian dollars. Yes, the currency in Namibia is also called the dollars, but Namibian dollars, to increase it from 250 Namibian dollars to 1,300 Namibian dollars, effective from 2023-2024 to strengthen support for children with disabilities. The Child Welfare Ministry launched the social protection policy on Thursday, that was, I think, last week, to address various challenges, including economic challenges caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, which has worsened the situation of poverty and unemployment among the people. Then in Zimbabwe, the Reserve Bank, that's the central bank, that's what it's called. In Zimbabwe, the central bank is called Reserve Bank. In South Africa, the central bank is also called the Reserve Bank. Which other country in Africa? I think Egypt also. Okay, in Zimbabwe, the Reserve Bank on Tuesday allotted a total of about $32.8 million through the foreign exchange auction system as the Confederation of Zimbabwe Industry threw its weight behind the central bank's recently introduced inflation containment measures. Now, if we move over to the United States, where we saw stock futures dipping in early morning trade Wednesday as investors await the latest insights into the Federal Reserve's policy tightening. The U.S. as well as the EU are preparing to slap more sanctions on Russia after evidence emerged of war crimes allegedly being committed by Russian forces. The new sanctions include a ban on Russian coal imports. The thing is, are those sanctions even meeting Putin? Or, you know, how is it affecting Russia now? Okay, looking at the Asian markets, we saw that they declined on Wednesday, that's overnight. All prices are a bit mixed today. Brent, though we saw some kind of recovery from losses, Brent is trading at around $107 while US oil is at $101. US oil is the West Texas Intermediate. Gold is trading at around $1,924 a ton. All right, let's quickly move over to the central bank now. Yes, can we, guys? Director, can we move over to? Okay. Yes, we can. Okay, the Central Bank of Nigeria says that it will continue to boost maize production towards promoting food security and self-sufficiency in the country. At the unveiling of the 21 maize pyramids in Kaduna State, the CBN revealed that as at February 2022, under its Anchor Borers program, it has disbursed about 948 billion naira to 4.47 million smallholder farmers and cultivated 5.2 million hectares of farmlands across Nigeria, creating about 12.5 million direct and indirect jobs. Emmanuel Aldo will now take it from here by giving us more details. And I hope to see you all again tomorrow. So this is bye from me. Be the best you can be and be the change that you want to see. Try as much as possible to be safe and secure. I'll see you all again tomorrow. Bye.
Nigeria is the 13th largest producer of maize in the world and the 12th in the African continent after South Africa. The annual consumption of maize stood at 12.38 million metric tons as at 2021, with 60% of it being consumed by the industrial sector. But despite being the second producer of maize in sub-Saharan Africa, there is still supply and demand gap of over 4 metric tons of the product. Unveiling the second national maize pyramid in Kaduna State, President Muhammadu Buhari said the gesture is part of the objective of his administration for the country to be food and nutritional secured. President Muhammadu Buhari, who was represented by the Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Mohammed Abubakar, said the unveiling of the pyramid will tell the good story about the Nigerian farmers with the support of various programs like the Anchor Borers program of the Central Bank of Nigeria, which has helped in closing the gaps between the supply of maize grains and its demand by domestic and industrial users. He said the relentless efforts and support of the administration to diversify the economy through the agricultural sector, which contributes almost 30% of the gross domestic product, are being manifested.
I am indeed delighted to be invited to this epoch-making event of the unveiling of second maize pyramid by President Muhammadu Buhari, organized by the Maize Association of Nigeria in collaboration with the Central Bank of Nigeria. It is another consistent milestone in achieving one of the core objectives of this administration, which is for Nigeria to be food and nutritional secured. There is no doubt the unveiling of this pyramid would tell the good story about Nigerian maize farmers with the support of Mr. President through various support programs such as Anchor Growers program of the CBN, has been able to close the gap between supply of maize grains and its demand by domestic and industrial users. The relentless efforts and support of the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari to diversify the economy through agricultural sector, which contributes almost 30% of the gross domestic product, is being manifested here today.
He also noted that Nigeria is the largest producer of maize in Africa and occupies the 11th position in the world, with large volumes of the tonnage emanating from smallholder farmers that cultivate 1 to 5 hectares of land. The president also said Kaduna State is the highest producer of maize grains in Nigeria, having that holding the unveiling event in Kaduna State is the right choice and believed it will spur the state to perform better not only in maize production but other crops of importance.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is pertinent to note that Nigeria is the largest producer of maize in Africa and occupies the 11th position in the world with large volume of the tonnage emanating from smallholder farmers, such as members of the Maize Association of Nigeria, that cultivates 1 to 5 hectares. Kaduna State is the highest producer of maize grains in Nigeria. Therefore, holding the unveiling event in Kaduna State is the right choice, and I believe it will spur the state to perform better, not only in maize production, but other crops of importance.
He said the Federal Ministry of Agriculture has strengthened the sector via different programs, among which are subsidizing the price of farm inputs such as seeds, chemicals, organic fertilizers, storage facilities as low as 10%, enhancing the technical knowledge of farmers.
The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development will also continue to support smallholder farmers as they have been identified as the engine room for the achievement of sufficient food production in Nigeria. The ministry has consistently strengthened the agricultural sector via different programs, among which include subsidizing the price of farm inputs such as seeds, chemicals, organic fertilizers, storage facilities as low as 10%, enhancing the technical knowledge of farmers. The ministry, in its inputs rollout activities in some states, has distributed farm inputs free to farmers across the geopolitical zones of the country. I am glad to inform Kaduna farmers that it will soon be your own turn. It should be recalled that before the event of this administration, Nigeria was self-sufficient in maize production and had demand and supply gap of over 5 million metric tons. However, with the support and intervention program of this present administration, Nigeria is able to close this gap and thus gradually paving way for export of maize to international markets. Ladies and gentlemen, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is focused on ensuring that maize farmers get required critical input, growth enhancers, seeds, biorational pesticides, herbicides, and so on, and agro equipment at affordable price and at the right time for both wet and dry season to make maize production all year round. All these efforts will help in our country's diversification from oil-dependent economy to agriculture and ensure job creation for the youths and self-sufficiency in maize production. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is worthy to note that the unprecedented influx of investors, processors, marketers into the maize industry will portend a positive outcome to growth of the industry and increase tonnage of maize production in Nigeria. However, to achieve food and nutrition security in Nigeria, all concerned stakeholders must support the government in its efforts at revolutionizing agricultural sector.
In this remark, the President, Maize Farmers Association of Nigeria, Dr. Bello Abubakar, said, to achieve food and nutrition security in Nigeria, all concerned stakeholders must support the government in its efforts to revolutionize the agricultural sector. He added that the event demonstrates the capacity of association in mobilizing Nigerian farmers to produce what can sustain Nigeria and export over a period of time.
Maize Association of Nigeria would like to use the forum to continue to show appreciation to the government of President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, for giving farmers a new lease of life. Furthermore, it is to thank the dynamic and the resourceful governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Dr. Godwin Emefiele, CON, for providing the enabling environment for smallholder farmers. More importantly, Your Excellencies, today's event will also demonstrate the capacity of man in mobilizing Nigerian farmers to produce what can sustain us and even export over a period of time.
He also said the gesture shows the Maize Farmers Association of Nigeria is not just supporting the food security, but food and nutrition security with the collaboration of Unveils Plus to promote the production and consumption of nutritious vitamin A maize in Nigeria.
To showcase a viable platform for loan disbursement, proper utilization to enhance repayment. Pyramid of maize as a symbolic flexibility of alternative repayment option. Official unveiling of these pyramids as a genuine feedback to the present administration determination to lift many Nigerians out of extreme poverty and position agriculture as a business. To also show that man, it's not just supporting food security, but food and nutrition security with the collaboration with Harvest Plus to promote the production and the consumption of nutritious vitamin A maize. As you can see in this field, we established 21 pyramids. The 21st one is the one that is in the middle here that you can see is a yellow vitamin A maize to provide nutritious food for vitamin A maize to the country. So we are not only producing only food for maize, we are also producing nutritious vitamin A maize. Man is truly Nigeria's farmer's hope. Ladies and gentlemen, what is being displayed here is a fraction of what has been produced by our farmers. We have more in our various warehouses across the country. There are 21 pyramids, each constructed with between 30 to 50 trucks of maize. Despite these challenges, and bearing in mind that money given for this farming is a loan, to resilient Nigerian maize farmers were able to produce what is being unveiled today. However, it is not just challenges, but great achievements have been made under the Anko Barua program. Man membership has increased greatly. Able-bodied young men and women are joining the association. Through the Anko Barua's program, man has acquired some mechanization equipment like tractors, combine harvesters, creating both direct and indirect jobs for our teaming youth. This is unprecedented in the history of commodity association in Nigeria.
The governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, said in 2021 the first maize pyramid in Kaduna State had a total of 300 metric tons, which was strategically released to the market through allocation to major feed mills and large-scale poultry farms. The CBN governor, who was represented by Philip Yusuf, Director of Development Finance Department, said the yield prior to 2016 and 2017 in Nigeria was as low as 1.8 metric tons per hectare, considered as the lowest among the top maize producers in Africa. He also noted that a total of 245.91 metric tons was aggregated for the 2020 wet and dry season harvest from selected prime actors, out of which 232.89 metric tons have been released.
I'm most delighted to be present at this auspicious occasion of the unveiling of the second maize pyramids in Nigeria and official kickoff of the 2022 maize wet season farming. This kickoff, as promised when we did the last mega rice pyramids in Abuja, is a testimony of the can-do spirit of the Nigerian people. This can-do spirit is growing in leaps and bounds, and as we are gradually transcending the gains of the Anchor Bora programs, you will continue to see other pyramids of other commodities. Let me commence this address by acknowledging and thanking Mr. President for his unwavering support to the Central Bank of Nigeria in our effort to grow what we eat and eat what we grow. Mr. President has consistently championed the Anchor Bora program, and he has given the Central Bank all the support required to be able to work with all stakeholders in the agricultural sector to ensure that we achieve this rapid transformation in the agricultural value chain. I'm also pleased to be here at the unveiling of the Maize Association of Nigeria Pyramid, and this is a testimony and the endorsement of your effort to contribute to food security in Nigeria. You will recall that in 2021, we launched the first maize pyramids in Katsina with a total of over 3,000 metric tons of maize displayed in Katsina. The produce was strategically released to marketers through allocation and directly linked to feed mills and large-scale poultry farms. This strategic allocation assisted in moderating prices and ensuring steady supply to all the major players in the market. The cost savings to these economic agents was enormous, and it had a multiplier effect in the entire value chain. Your Excellencies, here, the maize revolution was birthed over 6 years ago under the Anchor Bora's program, with the overall objective of facilitating food security by increasing local production of maize, safeguarding the activities of smallholder maize farmers, stimulating rapid economic recovery, enhancing rural livelihoods, increasing job opportunities through funding of smallholder farmers, and supporting private sector players through prime anchors, also to engage in backward integration for self-sufficiency and conservation of scarce foreign exchange. Prior to the Central Bank of Nigeria's initiation of the maize revolution under our Anchor Bora program, growth of maize production in Nigeria has been largely due to the increase in hectarage of cultivated land and not the yield per hectare. The yield prior to 2016-2017 in Nigeria was as low as 1.8 metric tons per hectare, which is considered as one of the lowest, or which was considered as one of the lowest in Africa. This is behind countries such as Egypt and South Africa, where the yields of maize are as high as 7.7 metric tons per hectare and 5.3 metric tons per hectare. This low yield resulted in the country's inability to meet the domestic and industrial maize demand. To address this yield challenge, the Central Bank of Nigeria developed a framework for the participation of some seed companies in the Anchor Borrower program with the overall objective to increase productivity and also guarantee high yield seeds for farmers under the Anchor Borrower program. I'm glad to announce that this partnership, also with the help of technical experts to introduce good agronomic practices through practical farm demonstrations, has improved the yield of maize per hectare from an average of 2.5 tons per hectare to 6 metric tons per hectare today. It is also gratifying to note that the nation's maize production as at date is in excess of 12.2 million metric tons. And this has gone a long way in bridging the gap that previously existed before the commencement of the Anchor Borrower program. This increased production is taken from the farmers as repayment for the loans and put in a strategic maize reserve. The strategic maize reserve, which was established in December 2020 as a short-term measure pending the revitalization of the Nigeria Commodity Exchange, is meant to moderate the price of maize in the country. Releases from this strategic maize reserve are made to millers and poultry farmers under the auspices of the Poultry Association of Nigeria directly to ensure that the central bank's mandate of ensuring price stability is met. This sustainable supply of maize will continue also to high demand industries, the Poultry Association of Nigeria, and the feed millers. In 2020-2021, a total of 300,000 metric tons of maize was aggregated from both the wet and dry season harvest from selected prime anchors, of which a total of 232,898 metric tons has been released. The volume of maize in these pyramids you see before us today is intended to serve as additional stock for the strategic maize reserve, which will also be released to all the participants in the value chain. As we prepare for another wet season program, the Central Bank of Nigeria is committed to financing over 600,000 hectares. Our strategy is also hinged on improving productivity by providing this funding through the financial institutions to the various anchors and the commodity associations to enable them utilize high quality inputs and good agronomic practices to boost output so that we not only meet national demand, we begin to look at the export potential which will earn us foreign exchange. Bringing recent happenings globally into perspective, 2 of the top 10 exporters of maize in the world, Argentina and Brazil, recently experienced droughts in 2021, while another 2, Ukraine and Russia, are at war. This will certainly impact on maize supply globally and drive prices of maize northwards. Consequently, we have planned at the Central Bank a more robust and timely wet season program, which will commence in April 2022 for maize and other key commodities like rice, wheat, cassava, sorghum, and soya beans to mitigate the impending food crisis which is occasioned by the crisis in Russia and Ukraine, and also the global supply that were affected by the drought in both Argentina and Brazil. At this juncture, allow me to specially thank Governor Nasir El-Rufai, ably represented, and the Kaduna State government for their support and the provision of the venue for this event. I also like to commend the Kaduna State Governor for his continuous dedication and support, as Kaduna State is the largest producer of maize in the country. I ask that he continues to unlock more land and the Central Bank starts ready to partner with him to ensure that we improve productivity and not only meet national demand like I earlier mentioned, but contribute to continue to export, and which will contribute to our foreign exchange accretion. I also like to thank the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, all banks who have been supporting the program, the commodity associations, especially MAN, who has been a very good payer of the loans they take, and the prime anchors for their continued support for the ongoing agricultural revolution in Nigeria. The Central Bank of Nigeria remains committed to the growth and development of the Nigerian economy, as can be attested to by the numerous development finance interventions deployed to reduce the negative effects of COVID pandemic on businesses and households.
Also speaking, the governor of Kaduna State, Nasiru El-Rufai, said the state is the largest producer of maize in Nigeria, adding that agriculture is the only way Nigeria would achieve food security, good jobs, social inclusion, and enhanced livelihood. Godwin Emefiele was represented by the State Commissioner for Agriculture, Ibrahim Hussaini, said that the program will change the narrative for producers, suppliers, service providers, and consumers towards strengthening commercial agriculture. He assured that the state will continue to support all its efforts towards enhancing productivity, livelihood, food security, value addition, and inclusiveness in the transformation of the agriculture sector in Nigeria.
I'm not surprised that Kaduna State is selected to host this very important event based on the fact that Kaduna State is the largest producer of maize in Nigeria. It is our strong belief and conviction that through agriculture, Nigeria will achieve food security, create jobs, social inclusion, enhance livelihood, stimulate growth of small and medium-sized enterprises. We hope that this program will change the narrative for producers, processors, input suppliers, service providers, and consumers towards a more strengthened commercial agriculture productivity in Nigeria. The Anchor Borrowers Program, through which the Maize Association of Nigeria is able to achieve this spectacular success, is commendable. The federal government's policy on diversification of the economy through improved agricultural productivity is a decision in the right direction. The maize pyramids we are commissioning today is a practical demonstration that good policies driven and implemented through the public-private partnership model can deliver positive results. Your Royal Highnesses, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, permit me to, at this juncture, commend the good leadership of the President of MAN, Alhaji Dr. Bello Abakar, for the huge successes achieved by this association, which is worthy of emulation by associations of other value chains. I must also commend the effort of the Central Bank of Nigeria for initiating the Anchor Borrowers Program by providing and timely releasing funds, without which this celebration will not be possible. The role played by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development as a major stakeholder cannot be overemphasized. The result of working together is what we are reaping today. Kaduna State, as you are all aware, is an agrarian state, leading in the production of maize, ginger, and tomatoes, and major producer of soybeans, sorghum, cowpea, sugarcane, etc. It is a key player in agricultural transformation programs in Nigeria. We have the privilege of participating in many programs and projects with the federal government and development partners, which include the Appeals Program, NLTP Program, LPRES Program, BAGS Program, and so forth, in partnership with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, FAO, AGRA, IITA, and many others. Through these projects, more than 1.2 million small and medium-scale farmers have been registered, and many are beneficiaries of the various interventions in Kaduna State. Kaduna State has studied the revised guidelines for the Anchor Borrowers Program, which is a private sector driven and is ready to participate in the facilitation and the implementation of the program through the revised guidelines. Finally, Your Royal Highnesses, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would like to assure you that Kaduna State will continue and strongly support all efforts towards enhancement of productivity, livelihood, food security, nutrition, value addition and inclusiveness in the transformation and development of agricultural sector in Nigeria.
The unveiling of the maize pyramid comes months after President Muhammadu Buhari unveiled bags of rice paddy numbering 1 million stacked as pyramids in Abuja, the nation's capital. Emmanuel Haudu reporting for Moneyline with Nancy.